First up, we have the giant squid, found within the waters around Iceland and the largest of the squid species. The biggest giant squid ever recorded grew to be 43 feet long and weighed around 606 pounds, giving it the title of the largest invertebrate on Earth. Not only that, but this particular squid also has the largest eyeballs of all the animals on Earth, with some even growing to be as big as beach balls. And these giant eyes allow the animal to find its way in the dark depths of the ocean. The giant squid generally eats deep water fish as well as other squids by wrapping them up in its tentacles and tearing into them with its giant beak. Good thing this animal likes to spend most of its time at a depth of about 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Next up, we have the Hurin lava field, home to the basaltic lava waterfall. And again, guys, I'm so sorry about the pronunciations here. What looks like rocks in which the Icelandic waters are flowing from is actually in fact basaltic lava, a relatively thin form of dark lava that flows slowly down into the waters below. While this is already super cool, due to the constant eruptions that took place in the area, it is littered with hidden caves, the longest of which is an astonishing 1,595 meters long, 5,200 feet, and in some places is 15.8 meters or 52 feet high. According to Icelandic folklore, the caves are said to be home to native trolls. Next up, we have the Langjökull Glacier, and again, I'm so sorry about the names here. It is the second largest glacier in Iceland at 939 square kilometers, which is 361 square miles. Within the walls of the glacier lies a man-made cave, which holds the record for longest man-made ice cave in the world, and it's absolutely stunning. Another cool thing about this massive piece of ice is that it sits atop an actual bed of fire, and by that I mean two active volcanoes, which causes the most beautiful juxtaposed mix of freezing ice and hot volcanic activity where the two meet. Next on the list, we have the starry skatefish, found in the waters surrounding Iceland. Also known by its scientific name, Registulata, it is a cartilaginous bottom-dwelling fish, generally found at a depth of 18 to 982 meters, about 60 to 3,222 feet. Wow, this thing's got range. The animal generally lives up to 14 years, maximum of 15, and has a length of about 76.1 centimeters. 29 inches. The creature is lucky to live in Iceland as it does prefer colder waters, generally around 8.9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. When the starry skate lays its eggs, it does so in what's called a purse, and each egg can contain up to 7 embryos. Now, the animal is unfortunately considered to be at a vulnerable state due to overfishing, as its wings are considered to be a delicacy among the Icelandic peoples. But with efforts made by wildlife conservatories, we are really hoping their numbers will be back up in no time. Next on the list, we have Hafgufa, a terrifying sea creature of Icelandic folklore, said to have been a kraken-like monster that would swallow ships whole, leaving behind nothing but wreckage and a few lost sailors. In recent years, however, it seems that scientists have discovered that there is some truth behind the mysterious legend. It appears that what was believed to be the largest sea monster of all was actually just the largest mammal of all, a whale, utilizing a hunting strategy known as trap feeding, which happens when the massive animal sits motionless on the surface of the water with its mouth open, attracting fish and other small animals, and then slamming it shut, filled with its prey, and diving down into the oceanic depths of the Icelandic waters. The sea monster, not so much, but that I would like to see. At our halfway point, we have a discovery made inside of the concealed cave. Archaeologists found signs of human presence within the cave. Not only that, but the evidence also led researchers to believe that whoever it was had been cooking and eating horses within its walls at some point during the 12th century. Perhaps the strangest and most terrifying part of this discovery is that other than this, there has been no evidence or record that humans inhabited the area during the 12th century. Not only that, but if they had, by that time eating horse meat would have been extremely forbidden by the Icelandic Church, which begs the question, was what they found really evidence of a human, or perhaps something else altogether? Next, we have the great spider crab, commonly found along the shores of Iceland. This thing grows up to 12 inches across in its center body, which doesn't seem so bad, but its leg span can be up to 12 feet across from claw to claw, making this thing just slightly terrifying. When the creature outgrows its hard exoskeleton, it will molt or shed, leaving behind a hollow copy of itself. It will then remain soft-shelled for many days before its outer layer hardens again, providing protection to the animal. The animal is generally known to eat dead or decaying fish, so like corpses. And while this crustacean only has a few known predators, octopuses have been known to tear off the limbs of the crabs for a quick snack. But don't worry, they regenerate. And next we have the American mink, and don't let the name fool you, as these things were first introduced to Iceland in the 1930s and have wreaked havoc on its lands ever since. These semi-aquatic species, which looks to me like some kind of otter mixed with a meerkat, generally ranges from 17 to 27.5 inches long and weighs just about 2 to 3 pounds. But don't judge a book by its cute cover, because these things are vicious and even capable of taking down animals much larger than themselves. They generally attack their prey by pinning them down and administering a strong bite to the back of the neck. Because of the aggressive nature of the American mink, it doesn't have very many natural predators. In fact, the largest threat to the animal is humans. While minks have been known to attack larger animals, they generally enjoy a diet of birds, fish, eggs, insect, and small mammals. Cute, but no thanks. And next we have the Lagerfjord lake monster, another Icelandic creature that lives alongside trolls and ocean monsters within the folklore. The creature is said to be a giant worm-like thing that lives within the Lagerfjord lake and has been described as being longer than a football field and as having many bumps and ridges along its back. A video which surfaced in 2012 seemed to have captured the monster swimming just below the surface of the water, which has led many locals to believe that the animal really does exist. While some have claimed the image to be nothing more than a sea snake, scientists have pointed out that that's impossible, due to the fact that snakes do not have the ability to regulate their body temperature and would therefore not survive in the cold waters of the Icelandic lake. What do you guys think it is? Let us know in the comments. And finally, this one is actually pretty recent and definitely terrifying, as in mid-January of this year, the country of Iceland experienced 2 massive volcano eruptions that have threatened the existence of a town called Grindavik. And again, I do apologize for the pronunciation. On January 14th, lava flowed along the edge of the town, setting many of the homes on fire. Luckily, the eruption has since come to an end, but the problem now lies in the cracked ground the tragedy left behind, which scientists fear may actually cause the town to collapse. High levels of deformation in the eastern part of the town are of immediate concern to those who live there, as well as those trying to figure out ways to stop any further damage from happening. Because of the eruptions and the possibility of further damage, the town was evacuated and as of right now is still not safe to return to. Starting off our list today, we have the mystery of the color-changing Alaskan rivers. In recent years, scientists have found themselves bewildered by the changes in their waterways, including the 451 kilometers 280 miles of the monumental Kobuk River twists and turns through the northwest Alaska. Scrambling to figure out just what the heck is going on and why not only have these waters started to turn orange, but why they have also experienced an extreme increase in acidity, the United States Geological Survey partnered with the National Park Service and the University of California, Davis and the University of Alaska, Anchorage, and Public Pacific University together have set out to map the extent of the contamination as well as its impact on the ecosystem and the cause of it all. While the large group of scientists found their work to be inconclusive, they did come up with a few good theories. The first being that rising temperatures in the Arctic, which has been warming at an alarming rate of almost 4 times faster than the rest of the world, has caused permafrost to begin to thaw in certain areas of the state, releasing iron that had previously been held within the ice. Another theory suggests that not only was the color change due to excess levels of iron, but also the presence of bacteria, reducing the oxidized iron into the soil, which upon contact with the oxygenated water turned a vibrant shade of orange and raised acidity levels to rival those of actual orange juice. Next up, we have vampire fish rain. It's like that song Acid Rain, but instead of acid rain, it's vampire fish falling from the sky. Now, if you're starting to think I've lost my mind, let me explain. The sea lamprey, commonly referred to as the vampire fish, has been around since at least the 1800s, which is when it was first discovered. The jawless fish, which can grow up to 15 inches long, earned its nickname due to the fact that its mouth, which is ringed with many rows of sharp teeth, works as a suction cup, which allows it to attach and suck the blood of its prey along with other bodily fluids. So now that we know what they are, let's just imagine what would happen if they started falling from the sky in our lawns, roadways, parking lots, beaches, and more. Well, the people of Fairbanks, Alaska don't have to imagine, as in 2015, it actually happened. Over the span of about a week, the Alaskan Department of Fish and Game received several calls from the residents of the town claiming to have found the fish popping up in the most unlikely places. Now, some people have claimed this was due to seagulls scooping them up from the fresh waters and dropping them on land, but there were a lot, and besides, vampire fish rain sounds way cooler anyways. Kushtaka is next on our list, also known as the Land Otter Man. The creature, which many locals claim to have seen, is said to be a mythical shape-shifting being that has commonly been referred to in the legends told by the Tlingit peoples of the Pacific Northwest coast on North America. In some of the legends told, Kushtakas are described as monsters, cruel creatures who drag sailors to their deaths. However, other stories have depicted them as friendly and helping, with some even claiming that the creatures have often saved humans by freezing to death in the cold Alaskan climate. So it's a bit of a toss-up on this one. Are they good or are they bad? And are they even real? I'll leave that up to you guys to figure out. Coming up next, we have the Slide Cemetery, located in the Klondike Gold Rush National Park. It was a dark day when scientists discovered the graves of an estimated 48 to 100 people, it's unknown as the records weren't so great back then, who perished in what is now described as the darkest day in the Klondike Gold Rush history. On April 3rd of 1898, many Alaska people took to the Chilkoot Trail in an effort to quickly reach the Klondike goldfields, but unfortunately a large number of them never made it to the intended destination. It seems the deceased, filled with dreams of collecting riches, failed to heed the many warnings of weather concerns in the area, and as the aspiring gold collectors made their way up the steep trails, the wet spring weather and loose dirt and rock caused a 10-acre avalanche, ending the lives of many and turning what was once a booming gold town into a desolate and melancholy area of mourning. The cemetery stands today as a reminder of this dark day in history. Up next, we have Lady of the Lake, the discovery of which left scientists and historians baffled and disturbed. So if you're picturing some ghostly woman standing at the edge of the water with decrepit skin and strangly hair, whose presence is depicted in horror stories and folklore, well, you'd be wrong. The Lady of the Lake is actually an abandoned WB-29 bomber aircraft, tail number 44-62214. The aircraft, which flew in the 1940s during World War II, was used to detect evidence of nuclear testing from the Soviet Union while flying back and forth between Alaska and Japan. Makes sense, but what doesn't is how the aircraft ended up in the lake. Its first confirmed appearance in its final watery resting place was in 1964, but whether or not it crashed there, which it does not appear to have done so, or if it was placed there, there are absolutely no records, so it just really remains a mystery. Next, we have the possible discovery of a supervolcano hiding just beneath the surface of the Alaskan islands. The question of the volcano's existence first arose on December 7th of 2022 when John Power, a geophysicist at the United States Geological Survey's Alaska Volcano Observatory, presented a study that showcased a wide crater with arc-shaped ridges and around a 426-foot depth, 130-meter hollow entryway, presumably the tip of the supervolcano, and he presented it to his peers at the American Geophysical Union. While the discovery has yet to be confirmed, there is a mountain of evidence to support the existence of the mega underwater volcano. Geographical data, as well as data collection from seismometers used to record micro-earthquakes around the islands, point heavily to the confirmation of the volcano's presence. At this point in time, scientists are determined to confirm what exactly lies beneath the surface of these waters around the Alaskan islands as quickly as they can, because with the discovery of the possible volcano being so new, we have little to no information on whether or not this thing could blow at any time. And up next, we have another possible appearance and swift disappearance of underground pyramids hidden within the earth of the Alaskan Triangle. The discovery was made after a United States Senator Cale Boggs, along with his pilot, Nick Begich, were flying over a part of Alaska commonly referred to as the Alaskan Triangle, known for its strange energy and high disappearance rate. As you might have guessed, both senator and pilot disappeared, but that's not even the weirdest part. A survey of the area took place in an attempt to locate the missing persons, but instead found evidence of a pyramid-shaped major underground structure. However, when they went back to confirm their discovery, it was as though the pyramid had completely disappeared. There are many theories about the commonly referred to Dark Pyramid, the most popular being that it is an alien pyramid, heavily guarded by the United States government, and some people even believing that the pyramid has special powers, such as the ability to generate enough electricity to power all of Canada. But what do you guys think it is? Let me know in the comments because I really love a good conspiracy theory. And starting off our top 3, we have disappearances in the Alaskan Triangle, which of course was briefly mentioned in our last point, but let's dive a little bit deeper because since 1988 there has actually been a recorded total of 16,000 disappearances in the area that lies between the lines of Anchorage, Juneau, and Utqiagvik. Of course, Boggs and Begich being among the missing. No one can figure out why this specific area has caused so much confusion and turmoil. Of course, there are many theories, the presence of the Dark Pyramid being one of them, rough terrain being another, and possible magnetic disturbances as well. But the crazy part is that it's not just planes that disappear when entering this particular triangle-shaped portion of Alaska. Reports of alleged kidnappings, getting lost in the woods, sudden vanishings, and being buried by snow are by in no means of short supply. Scientists still can't seem to figure out what it is about this specific area that makes planes and people act so out of whack. Next, we have the petroglyph rocks found amongst the shores of Wrangell, an island town in part of Alaska's Inside Passage. For those wondering, a petroglyph is basically just a picture carved into a stone used to represent stories and knowledge, and if you'd like to see one, well, Alaska's got a bunch. While scientists argue over the purpose of the rocks, they have agreed that they were most likely created anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, most likely by the native peoples that resided there at the time. But seeing as the depictions carved into some of the massive stones very closely mirror images of crop circles and other alien symbols, along with the fact that even after thousands of years the markings still remain so deep within the rock, the theory of the petroglyphs occurrence being a result of extraterrestrial artwork can't be ruled out. Not to mention, Alaska is also home to a giant underground pyramid, I'm just saying. And coming in at our number 1 spot, we have the golden egg. Okay, this one is super cool to me because it was found in the ocean, and I'm always on the lookout for new aquatic discoveries, which, by the way, if you've seen any recently, please let me know in the comments. But anyways, the flesh-like golden egg was recently discovered in August 30th of 2023, and this thing is weird. Found in the depths of the Alaskan seafloor, marine scientists are absolutely stumped as to what this thing could be, but many have speculated that it is most likely the egg casing of a new, unknown creature. On a live stream, one of the scientists noted that the egg had a hole in it, saying that meant something had either tried to get in or out. Another one of the marine spectators noted that when our collective knowledge can't identify it, it's something weird, adding, what kind of animal could make an egg casing like that? The team of researchers was able to successfully collect the intriguing item from the seafloor and bring it to the surface, and have so far confirmed that the golden flesh-like egg is in fact of biological origin, meaning it's not just some prop or piece of trash, but they have yet to truly identify the strange discovery.
Coming in at number 10 is the Iceman. The mummy of Otzi, aka the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Ötztal Alps, Italy. It's believed that the Iceman belonged to 3000 BCE, and his body was preserved because of the glacier that surrounded him after he died. Evidence suggests that he had his life ended by someone due to presence of several wounds and an arrowhead embedded in his shoulder. His life and the circumstances surrounding his death remain among the most significant European mysteries. Now, however, soon after his discovery, people who were involved with his discovery began to die due to violent accidents. Forensic pathologist Rainer Henn died in a horrific car accident, mountaineer Kurt Fritz Fritz died in an avalanche, and hiker Helmut Simon died after falling off a dangerous hidden path. The Iceman then claimed 3 more lives in quick succession between 2004 and 2005. Now, it's thought that anyone who comes into contact with the Iceman will die, and people believe that the discovery of the Iceman is a curse and has the power to destroy mankind. All I'm saying is, I would never get close to him. Number 9. Viruses. One major fear of global warming is that it could release unknown pathogens into the air, some of which may have the capacity to seriously hinder and endanger humanity. Now, a lung sample from a woman's body exhumed in 1997 from permafrost in a village on the seaward peninsula of Alaska contained genomic material from the influenza strain responsible for the 1918 pandemic. In 2012, scientists confirmed the 300-year-old mummified remains of a woman buried in Siberia contained the genetic signatures of the virus that causes smallpox. An anthrax outbreak in Siberia that affected dozens of humans and more than 2,000 reindeer between July and August in 2016 has also been linked to the deeper thawing of permafrost during exceptionally hot summers, allowing old spores of Bacillus anthracis to resurface from old burial grounds or animal carcasses. In 2015, researchers from China and the United States traveled to Galia ice cap in Tibet and drilled a 164-foot hole into the ice to study samples. What they found was no less than 33 different viruses, 28 of which had never been seen by human eyes. According to environmental virologist Chantal Abergel, we are very far from sampling the entire diversity of viruses on Earth. Now, that's positively unsettling considering there were 28 found in a Tibetan glacier alone. Number 8. Whiskey. Explorer Ernest Shackleton was one of the key figures in the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. Shackleton dreamed of being the first to reach the South Pole, but lost that race to Roald Amundsen, although that didn't stop him from exploring the icy region. One of his most heroic acts occurred after his ship, the Endurance, became stuck in ice. He saved each crew member with bravery, quick thinking, and strong leadership. Now, on another trip in 1909, Shackleton left behind 3 cases of scotch and 2 cases of brandy. He intended to enjoy the alcohol on his return, but sadly Shackleton never got the chance as he died of a heart attack on return to his voyage to Antarctica in 1921. Now, almost 100 years later, in 2010, workers in the Antarctic found Shackleton's bottles of alcohol frozen in the ice, aged to perfection. Number 7. Lake Vostok. In the late 1950s, the Soviet Union established the Vostok Station at the Pole of Cold on Princess Elizabeth Land in Antarctica. As researchers checked the thickness of the ice, they were shocked to discover Lake Vostok 13,000 feet below the ice surface. Russian scientists believe the lake was isolated roughly 15 to 25 million years ago. With the thick Antarctic sheet covering the lake, it remained untouched for centuries. Research on the ice and lake provided scientists with insight into the Earth's history. Now, the Russian team plans to eventually lower a probe into the lake to collect water samples and sediments from the bottom. It's hypothesized that unusual forms of life could be found in the lake's liquid layer, a fossil water reserve. Now, because Lake Vostok may contain an environment sealed off below the ice for millions of years, the conditions could resemble those of ice-covered oceans hypothesized to exist on Jupiter and Saturn's moon. Number 6. Yucca the Mammoth. Yucca the Mammoth is a mummified corpse of a juvenile female woolly mammoth that was found near and named after the village Yucca whose local people discovered it. This mammoth mummy was found as an overhanging ledge about 13 feet above the beach level in a low wave cut bluff that was about 16 feet high. Found in 2010, the mammoth died approximately 39,000 years ago. After its discovery, Yucca spent 2 years stored and preserved in a natural refrigerator, the local permafrost of Yucca. An analysis of the teeth and tusks determined Yucca to be approximately 6 to 8 years old when it died, coming in at about 5 tons. Now, although it's presumed that this mammoth had most likely been attacked by lions or other predators, evidence that the predators had killed the mammoth was not found. In March 2019, a Japanese researcher team led by Kazuo Yamagata, a biologist at Kendai University, worked with Yucca's tissue. Yamagata's team reported that they were able to simulate nucleus-like structures to perform some biological processes defenses. However, they cannot activate cell division. Yucca is now on display in Moscow, and it is quite creepy to say the least. It's considered the best preserved mammoth in the world, and you can clearly see why. Number 5. Mother-daughter mummies. In 2017, archaeologists found mummies buried in the Zelny Yar burial site near the Russian town of Skalkard. They found 2 mummies, one adult woman and the other her daughter. These mummies are estimated to be 900 years old and are said to be part of an unknown medieval culture. The interesting thing was that the female mummy is the only female in the burial ground, leading some to assume that she was an elite member of society. It's also interesting and creepy because only her head has been preserved. On the head you can still see her hair and eyelashes, and her face has a green tint due to the copper she was buried in. By finding this, the team who found them will be better able to understand the little known civilization that lived in this region between the 8th and 13th centuries. Between the 8th and 13th centuries AD. Alexander Gustav, expedition leader, said the remains were found near one of the 3 monuments at Zeleny Yar. They were buried in a north-south direction, their feet facing a river, the significance of which is thought to be religious. Now, who these people were and how they ended up on the edge of the Arctic is not known, but previous DNA analysis has shown them to have links to Persia. Researchers are currently working to connect the civilization to local indigenous populations living in the region today. Number 4. Fish. The freezing of an animal, insect, or fish can happen at any moment when the temperature suddenly drops and everything begins to freeze. Now, this is what happened when 2 brothers went fishing on a Wawasee Lake in Indiana a few years ago after a cold snap. They made a startling, bizarre, and mysterious discovery. They found a pike frozen in the ice of the lake. Now, in most cases, a frozen fish isn't a big deal. However, the pike died in the middle of eating a bass. The most probable theory suggests that the pike choked on the bass, died, and was frozen in time, the 2 fish entwined together forever. Now, at first, nobody believed the 2 brothers on social media. Most assumed it to be a special effect or joke, but they released graphic footage of them cutting the pike and half-eaten bass out of the ice, much to the surprise of their followers. Now, it's unknown how long it was frozen for, but I can't imagine finding something like that. Number 3. Dinosaur bones. It turns out that many dinosaur bones have been found in the frozen tundra of the Antarctic. The first were discovered in 1986 by Argentinian geologists Eduardo Olivero and Roberto Sasco, who unearthed remains of the ankylosaur. These bones were found on James Ross Island and were bones of a Tinosaura. Other dinosaurs are continuously found in Antarctica as well, but it's not like these dinosaurs were roaming on an icy landscape. Antarctica as we know it only formed about 25 million years ago, long after the dinosaurs had gone extinct. Before that, it was a part of the supercontinent called Gondwana, and it was actually quite tropical. Number 2. The meteorite. In 2021, research assistant Matthias van Gilken was working at the Belgian Princess Elizabeth Antarctica Station when he made a shocking discovery. He discovered 13 black particles at the Ronan Mountains, Queen Maud Land, and East Antarctica. The scientists soon realized it was pieces of a meteorite. They theorized that the meteorite was barreling towards Earth roughly 430,000 years ago and exploded in the sky above East Antarctica when it entered the atmosphere. Then earlier in 2015, NASA scientists found a small meteorite that fell to Earth 13 years earlier, landing in the icy cold Antarctica. Now, evidence suggests that the object contained microbes from Mars. And coming at number 1 is million-year-old DNA. In the fall of 2022, scientists announced that they uncovered million-year-old DNA just north of the continent of Antarctica. Scientists actually accidentally collected the unusual genetic samples up to 584 feet beneath the sea floor as part of a 2019 survey led by the International Ocean Discovery Program in the Scotia Sea north of mainland Antarctica. The ancient sediment that was discovered is now the oldest marine DNA found from seafloor sediments. The team looked closely at damage patterns within the recovered DNA fragments to establish exactly how old they were. Now, the oldest fragments clocked in at around 1 million years old. Now, until now, the oldest set of DNA, which was found locked inside Arctic permafrost, dated around 650,000 years ago. This DNA will be analyzed and studied by scientists, as it will tell us a lot about the polar marine ecosystem as well as how climate change may affect Antarctica.
We're starting things off with the case of the ping. So reports of strange sounds, often described as whistles, hums, or pings, have been documented in the Arctic. And one of the most famous cases involving a strange sound is the Arctic ping. back in the summer of 2016, in a small Inuit hamlet called Igloolik in Nunavut, hunters started getting concerned about a strange pinging noise coming from the Fury and Hecla Strait, which is a channel of water about 75 miles northwest of Igloolik. Now, the hunters' primary concern wasn't just how bizarre the sound was and the fact that they couldn't identify it, but the fact that it seemed to be scaring away the sea mammals in the area that they depend on. The sound seemed to be coming from the sea floor, and this wasn't just a few residents reporting the sound either. This was a big enough deal that the military was actually sent in to investigate, but they didn't find anything. One theory is that members of Greenpeace were somehow involved, creating the sound in order to scare off the animals from the hunters, but there's never been any definitive proof of that hypothesis. Next up, we have the Arctic UAPs. So just like with any remote area, the Arctic has its fair share of reported UFO sightings, and now some of these can be attributed to military activity or just misidentification of natural things, but some are still very much unexplained, and one of the biggest stories to come out recently is back in February of 2023 when all those UAPs were shot down over a bunch of different airspaces, mostly in Canada and the United States. News Nation just recently followed up on this story, saying that there were various sources claiming that there was a previously undisclosed encounter, 8 or 9 other UAPs, and this was right over the Arctic Circle. This was on February 1st, just a few days before the main objects had been shot down. Fighter jets were sent up from NORAD to engage with the objects, but the UAPs flew off at high speed, and no, they still aren't sure what these things were, unless they're just hiding that info from the public. Either way, it's pretty eerie stuff. So speaking of these dormant viruses breaking free from melting Arctic ice, we have the very creepy case of the Siberian anthrax outbreak in 2016. And so unlike the dormant ancient viruses that I talked about before, this actually did affect human beings. Apparently this was caused by a heat wave, thawed a 75-year-old reindeer carcass that had been infected with anthrax. The thawing process released dormant spores of the bacteria responsible for anthrax into the surrounding environment. The spores contaminated the soil and water sources nearby, and then local reindeer that were grazing on the contaminated land, of course, came into contact with these anthrax spores. Over 2,300 reindeer were infected. This then led to humans getting infected when they consumed the contaminated reindeer meat. About 100 people were hospitalized with anthrax exposure. One person even lost their life. So yeah, this was pretty freaky. Could have been much worse, but freaky nonetheless. Anthrax really is no joke. Just goes to show like how insidious dormant bacteria really is. So Greenland sharks are one of the largest shark species. They can grow to lengths of 24 feet, sometimes more. That's a big shark. You don't need me to tell you why that's scary. Now, here's something that I could not believe about these things. Greenland sharks have a very long lifespan. And when I say long, I mean like long. Again, I read this and was shocked. They live between 250 to 500 years. 500! That means there could be a Greenland shark swimming around up in the North Pole right now that's been alive since the 16th century. Just a handful of years after the Middle Ages. Blows my mind. These sharks have a bit of a creepy look to them as well, with a thick, robust body, a rounded snout, dark gray or black in color. Their eyes also have this pale, almost zombie kind of look to them. These are apex predators, their diet consisting of fish, seals, and other marine animals, and they live deep under the water at depths of around 650 to 3,000 feet, and they've been recorded even deeper than that. Next on the list is radioactive fallout. So in the 50s and 60s, a lot of nuclear testing took place, and this released a lot of radioactive material into the atmosphere. These tests, which were conducted both above and below ground, led to the dispersal of radioactive particles over long distances, and the Arctic region, even though it was far away from the primary testing sites, ended up accumulating a lot of this fallout, which was transported there through precipitation patterns before finally settling in the ice and snow. The fallout included Caesium-137 and Strontium-90, which stay radioactive for long periods of time, and they contaminated soil, water, and wildlife. And just like with those pesky viruses, as Arctic ice melts, there are concerns about these radioactive particles getting re-released, redistributing the fallout, and affecting local populations and wildlife. Negatively, of course. You know what's creepy? Corpses. Dead stuff. It's just icky. Ever thought of that? Yeah, this is very enlightening information I'm sharing with you right now. Well, even creepier are old but very well preserved corpses. Mummies. Well, the Arctic ice is a perfect environment for keeping corpses nice and cool, and that's why mummies are found in this part of the world all the time. In one case, in Greenland, the Arctic environment preserved all these mummified bodies, which dated back between 1475 and 1635. These human remains were found in burial sites, and the cold, dry conditions of the Arctic led to the natural mummification process. There have also been several remains of the crew of the doomed Franklin expedition dug up over the years. They look pretty freaky. I mean, if zombies actually started rising up from their graves, they'd basically look like these mummies, depending when they died, anyway. Next, we have the discovery of crashed planes from World War II. There have been a number of World War II planes found buried under Arctic ice over the years. Take one case in 1992, for example. During World War II, a P-38 Lightning fighter aircraft and two B-17 Flying Fortress bombers were part of the Lost Squadron, which encountered a blizzard while supporting the Allied war effort in the British Isles. Because of severe weather conditions, the aircraft were forced to make an emergency landing on the glaciers of Greenland in 1942. All the crew members did survive the emergency landing, but they had to endure very harsh conditions on the ice for 9 whole days before finally being rescued. The aircrafts, though, were left behind on the glacier. Over the following decades, the shifting ice sheets of Greenland gradually buried the planes under about 250 to 300 feet of ice. But then in 1992, one of the P-38 Lightning fighters was successfully extracted from the ice. This aircraft became known as Glacier Girl, and remarkably, despite being encased in ice for like half a century, the P-38 was actually restored to flying condition. Next on the list are Arctic sea ice circles. NASA scientists, during the Operation Icebridge mission over the Beaufort Sea in the Arctic, observed 3 holes in the sea ice surrounded by irregular circular shapes. It's still not entirely known what causes these circles, but some possibilities are seals or whales creating the holes, allowing water to flow out and from the circular shapes, or warm water bubbling up from below. These strange holes appear in an area of young, thin ice that was recently open water, with wave-like ripples on its surface. Arctic sea ice is composed of both multi-year and seasonal ice and has been diminishing and thinning over the years, particularly, as you can imagine, in the summer. The Arctic seems to be warming at twice the global average rate. Some scientists are predicting that the Arctic could be almost ice-free in the summer by the 2040s. Finally, though, we have the release of methane. We talked about ancient viruses thawing out of the permafrost earlier in the video, but that's not the only concerning thing concealed deep within the layers of Arctic ice. So the Arctic region has vast amounts of permafrost, permanently frozen soil, and permafrost is thawing, so I guess it's not permanently frozen then, which is exposing organic matter that's been frozen for thousands of years, like dead plants and animals, like the eerily well-preserved Yucca mammoth found in Siberia back in 2010, for example. And when permafrost thaws, the previously frozen organic matter becomes available to bacteria, which then break it down, releasing methane. Is also released from the seafloor in some Arctic areas through seeps. These seeps can be natural, but things like oil drilling can also release methane, and a lot of scientists are concerned about this because excessive amounts of methane ain't great for the environment.
At number 10, the Anita experiment, the scientific discovery that proves the existence of parallel universes. Now, okay, this one isn't technically aliens per se, but I wanted to mention it first because not only is it real, but come on, what's more exciting? Extraterrestrial visitors or extra-dimensional ones? Huh? Imagine a remote research station in Antarctica where scientists diligently hunt for cosmic rays. Now that's intriguing on its own, but it gets even better. See, naturally they had their instruments facing the sky, But then these researchers suddenly detect not one, but two signals shooting out of the ground beneath them, defying all logic. See, these rays of neutrinos are supposed to come from supernova, so it's highly improbable that the rays are passing through the Earth without coming into contact with a single particle of matter, only to land on a tiny weather balloon in the sky. To make sense of this, scientists dived into over 40 papers offering a buffet of explanations. Dark matter, elusive particles called sterile neutrinos, and then, the grandest of them all, a parallel universe, essentially a mirror image of ours, but where time runs backwards. Imagine that! This audacious idea isn't pulled out of thin air either. It's rooted in actual science, a theorem which hints that alongside our universe, an antimatter universe stretches backward through time before the Big Bang. But let's tap the brakes here, because a more down-to-earth theory has surfaced. That's right, hold your antimatter horses, because it turns out it's more likely that these signals were simply reflected off of ice or skipped off subglacial lakes. The truth, it seems, is more grounded, reflecting high-energy particles, not parallel dimensions. Sorry, y'all. I mean, unless you want to go ahead and put away Occam's razor. But before I do, if you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. At number 9, alien fossils. Back in 1996, NASA dropped a bombshell. Well, not literally. They stumbled upon a meteorite from Mars right there on our very own Antarctica. This space wanderer, a potato-shaped piece of Martian real estate, harbored something truly astonishing, a fossilized microbe. That's like finding a cosmic postcard in your backyard. This meteorite most likely embarked on a 15 million year journey across our solar neighborhood before cozying up on Earth. Now, let's dig deeper. The rock didn't just bring this Martian visitor, it also packed organic molecules. But before we declare aliens, bear in mind that this is an ongoing debate in the scientific arena. Some argue that this is a smoking pew-pew of extraterrestrial existence, while skeptics keep their feet firmly on Earth. What's your take on this otherworldly puzzle? At number 8 is the frozen ancient civilization. Enter Corey Good, a name synonymous with the clandestine narrative that spirals deep beneath the Antarctic ice. The year was 2017 when Good's voice resonated through the annals of conspiratorial discourse, asserting that a buried treasure lay beneath 2 miles of frigid ice, an ancient alien civilization, frozen in time. But let's rewind to 1939, a German expedition that allegedly stumbled upon this enigma. Fast forward to 2002, and the site begrudgingly opened its icy gate to scientists and archaeologists. What's captivating is Gode's own voyage, facilitated by the US Air Force, to witness the fabled civilization. A civilization that was rumored to be standing 55,000 years in Earth's past. This story leaves us yearning for forthcoming years to yield more insights into these Antarctic enigmas. At number 7, the Antarctic Pyramids. In 2016, rumors of pyramid-like mountains circulated the internet, capturing the imaginations of many. Could it be a creation of ancient civilizations, or perhaps, cue the dramatic pause, evidence of ancient extraterrestrial intervention? This square-based pyramid is perched upon the Ellsworth Range, standing around 4,000 feet tall. That's like 10 times the size of the pyramids of Giza. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Or should I say, tip of the pyramid? Reports of plant and bacterial life dating back eons also have come to light, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, a prehistoric, or should I say pre-human society once grazed this frigid expanse, crafting not only pyramids but also tending to the vegetation. Bam! Proof of ancient aliens. Or just a neat geological formation. I'll let y'all decide in the comments. At number 6, Admiral Byrd's Crystal City. Esteemed US naval officer Admiral Richard Byrd was one of the first pilots to fly over both poles, organizing Operation High Jump, the largest expedition to ever travel to Antarctica with all kinds of ships, aircraft, and crew in order to scout locations for potential military bases. But during his explorations, Admiral Byrd allegedly came upon something highly unexpected. The following comes not from a public account, but from his own diary, discovered by his son after Byrd's passing, in which he recounts an extraordinary discovery. Upon encountering a large cave in the South Pole through which he could easily fly his plane, Byrd steers his plane into the opening and flew underneath the Earth. As he flies within the massive cave, he encroaches upon an incredibly temperate and lush environment, not something you'd expect in the South Pole. But that's just the beginning. He tells about how he sees a shimmering rainbow city made out of crystal. Suddenly he loses control of his plane as flying disc-shaped objects lead him to the ground, whereupon he's escorted to a being which he refers to as the Master in his diary, who tells Byrd that it's massively disappointed with nuclear weapons and how they've recently destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, seeming to really be concerned with what's going on the surface, telling Byrd that these aliens hope humanity will ultimately stop this. At number 5, a UFO is discovered. In October of 2020, satellite images of Antarctica unveiled a peculiar sight. Amidst the icy expanse, an object resembling a semicircular flying saucer emerged, slightly elevated and casting a telltale shadow. Believed by some to be an ancient aircraft dating back thousands if not millions of years. The notion of aliens opting for this secluded spot brims with intrigue. However, before we leap into intergalactic conclusions, it's essential that we exercise caution. While this image sparks conjecture, we do lack conclusive evidence about its origin or purpose. At number 4 is the alien base. If this next story is to be believed, there's allegedly a secret alien base with advanced and unconventional weapons hidden in the icy waters of the Antarctic. According to a video uploaded by UFO hunters, a mysterious anomaly about 180 kilometers off the coast of Antarctica has been spotted. They speculate that it's not just some kind of hangar for a spaceship, but that actual aliens might be residing there too. Now this may veer toward the conspiracy side rather than urban legend, but hey, it's all in good fun. Some believers are advocating for an expedition to confirm the existence of these aliens, while others voice concerns about potentially sparking an intergalactic war if we're not careful. So whatever it is, let's just hope we tread carefully. At number 3, the Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary maritime menace straight from the annals of Scandinavian folklore, a colossal cephalopod-like creature feared for its ship-swallowing antics and sailor-dragging tendencies. But could this creature of nautical nightmares actually be an alien? Yeah, you heard me right. A Reddit user named Bavin Hunter has set their investigative sights on Google Earth, claiming that they spot what appears to be a Kraken near Deception Island in Antarctica. Quite the ironic location, I must say. They suggest that this dark spot lurking in the depths might just be this mystical monster. Granted, we've got some real-life cephalopods that can stir the imagination, but they're not exactly Kraken-sized. Or maybe it's a cryptic alien being lurking beneath the icy depths. At number 2, alien DNA. Traces of potential alien DNA were discovered in the Antarctic, a mind-boggling revelation that recently shook the scientific community regarding DNA traces found beyond the depths of certain Antarctic caverns. Algae DNA, intertwined with fragments from minute creatures, paints a picture of potential alien origin. Though no immediate creatures were unearthed, this discovery opens portals to speculation. Could Antarctica, once deemed a barren expanse, have teemed with diverse life forms? For life here are akin to an extraterrestrial habitat, hinting at hidden chambers harboring unexpected life. Warmth emanating from beneath the icy veneer adds to the intrigue, making it plausible for life to have gained a foothold here. At number 1 is the crashed UFO on Google Maps. In the realm of mysterious Antarctic enigmas, 2019 incident lit the extraterrestrial fuse. Enter Scott C. Waring, a fervent UFO enthusiast who, armed with Google Maps, embarked on a digital Antarctic odyssey. His pixelated gaze locked onto a triangular UFO ensnared within the icy clutches. With a distinctive hump and formidable edges, this alien ridge, should the thought unshackle this craft, could we witness an eerie revival of extraterrestrial occupants? This UFO trapped in icy stasis awaits a tangible inquiry, as its revelation could potentially reshape our cosmic worldview. So as we peel back the layers of ice and venture deeper into Antarctic's hidden past, we're left with a trove of unsolved puzzles. Are these clues pointing to the extraterrestrial visitors, or are they simply the product of natural phenomena that we've yet to fully comprehend? The allure of the unknown keeps us asking questions, keeps us searching for that flicker of insight that might illuminate the truth. And whether you find yourself firmly grounded in skepticism or ready to embrace the possibility of otherworldly contact, one thing is for sure: the Antarctic holds its secrets close.
First up, we have the leopard seal, and before you tell me they aren't scary, you're wrong. Not only do these things have razor-sharp teeth and an appetite for insides, their back teeth are literally serrated to help them tear apart their prey better. And if that doesn't shout carnivore with a non-discerning palate, I really don't know what does. So let's get to know these guys a little better. Leopard seals are the third largest seal in the world, and they like to be alone. They swim underwater, and they are the only seals known to reportedly hunt and devour warm-blooded prey. By the way, we're warm-blooded. I will save you the search. Yes, they have attacked humans, and of the recorded attacks, one has resulted in a fatality. Oh, and sometimes they attack their babies, so don't think they'd have any qualms about coming for you. They're cute, but I will not be taking my chances. And next on the list, we have the southern sleeper shark. Keep in mind that the Drake Passage is nearly impossible to explore, So it should come as no surprise that even when we are able to make discoveries within its waters or along its shores, they tend to be quite surface level. That being said, there is not much we really know about this shark, but what we do know is that this shark is a member of the dogfish shark species. Generally, the males measure in at around 13 feet, while the females come in at around 14.2 feet. The largest of the species ever discovered came in at 15. Their lifespan is unknown, and their existence is strange due to the fact that, as a basic rule of thumb, the majority of shark species prefer to live in warmer waters, as it speeds up their physiological processing as well as their metabolic rate. Only a handful of sharks are equipped to survive in temperatures as cold as those occurring in the Drake Passage, and they do so through something called counter-current heat exchange, using the heat generated in their muscles to warm their bodies while metabolizing food much slower than their more equator-adjacent counterparts. As we near our halfway point, I feel like I owe those of you who don't know a quick lesson. The Drake Passage, which is situated between the Antarctic Peninsula and Cape Horn, the southernmost part of Chile, has some incredibly treacherous waters, with some who have voyaged along its waters having reported waves of up to 65 feet, 19.8 meters in height. Guys, that is like 4 to 6 times the size of an average one-story house. These seas are not messing around. With waves so big, it's really no wonder that the Drake Passage has been home to so many cases of triumph, tragedy, injury, and mystery too. Which brings us to our halfway point. We have the wreck of over 800 ships, in which over 20,000 sailors would have met their end in the icy cold waters of the passage. The wrecks, which occurred likely due to the aforementioned high seas along with poor weather conditions, have led to the passage landing its name in the Rocky Waters Hall of Fame, making it a place that generates much curiosity. Among the many shipwrecks that have taken place along the Drake, we have the wreck of the Antarctic, a steam engine whaling vessel that hit the waters of the Drake Passage in 1901 and met its end just a few years later after becoming surrounded by large icebergs, which crushed and eventually sunk the ship, making it the first recorded instance of a shipwreck as a result of being trapped by glaciers. This story is not all bad though, as the captain and the entirety of the crew did survive. After the loss of their ship, sailors made their way across the ice to Paulet Island, where they spent an entire winter sheltered in stone huts and living off the land before they were eventually rescued. And next on the list, we have the southern elephant seal. And these things are huge, with the males of the species averaging in at 4 to 5 meters in length, around 13 to 16.5 feet, and weighing 3,500 kilograms, which is 7,716 pounds. These things are built like a brick, with razor-sharp teeth and an aggressive streak. The males are incredibly territorial, and therefore it is not uncommon for fights to break out amongst the communities of these animals, resulting in extreme injury for at least one, if not both, adult male elephant seals. Some cool, less violent things we know about the southern elephant seal is that they spend up to 80% of their lives in the ocean and are able to swim an average of 60 miles per day, adding up to around 15 to 20,000 miles per year. And they can do this at a speed of up to 10 miles per hour. And they can dive anywhere between 1,000 to 5,000 feet, 300 to 900 meters. It is important to note that while the animals have a regular diet of squid, fish, rays, and even sharks, there have been multiple reports of southern elephant seals attacking humans, so a safe distance is highly recommended. Another aggressive animal with incredibly sharp appendages, enter the southern giant petrel, a massive carnivorous bird with an average wingspan of 200 centimeters, 6.5 feet, and a razor-sharp beak that the animal uses to tear apart its prey. This bird is not picky, as it's known to both hunt and scavenge, generally for krill, squid, or fish, but it's really not opposed to any left behind dead or decaying animals either. Oh yeah, and I think I mentioned these things are super aggressive, often taking out other petrels, large seabirds, and penguins either by beating or drowning them. But it's not just these other animals that fear this massive bird. Sailors too, as these birds have been known to attack those who have fallen overboard, targeting the face and eyes with its claws and hooked ivory beak. And next up, not only is the Drake Passage known for high waves, it is also known for incredibly high force, hurricane strength winds, along with whipping rains and hailstorms. The winds in the Drake Passage can reach up to 50 knots, 58 miles per hour, and generally come in from the west. When it rains, the cold water feels like needles against the skin, and when it hails, even worse. It is highly advised that many passengers on trips through the passage stay inside during voyages across the extreme stretch of water, and even crewmen are pressured to remain in as much cover as possible throughout their journeys. I don't know you guys, I love the ocean and I've always wanted to visit the Arctic, but I don't think I'd risk this one. Up next we have icebergs. Well, an iceberg, and not just any iceberg, but the world's largest iceberg, also known as A76A. The giant once sat at 84 miles, 135 kilometers long, and 16 miles, 26 kilometers wide. This thing is still massive, but unfortunately that might not last long. You see, for a while, A76A had been slowly drifting around Antarctica, enduring relatively no decrease in its size. But satellite imagery has revealed that the giant ice slab has taken a change of course, landing itself right into the mouth of the Drake Passage. The Drake Passage, which is known to push icebergs right on through its treacherous cold waters, sending them northwards into much warmer ones. You can probably guess why this is not an ideal scenario. With already rising water temperatures, the movement of this iceberg through the passage is quite an unsettling discovery, as it highlights the swift rate in which sea levels can be altered and geology can be changed. And in our number one spot, we've covered wrecked ships, but we haven't covered haunted ones. Specifically the haunted schooner Jenny, commonly referred to as just Jenny. The ship was discovered frozen inside of an ice barrier by the crew of the Hope ship in 1840, 20 years after the Jenny had originally gone missing. The men of the Hope recounted their initial sighting of the missing vessel, saying that as they approached the ship, they noticed a group of 7 men standing at attention on the main deck. But as they got closer, they realized that the men were in fact frozen solid. Upon boarding the ship, they discovered the captain also frozen solid with a pen in his hand and a journal open to his final entry on the table, which read, May 4th, 1823, no food for 71 days. I'm the only person left alive. When the members of the Hope crew departed the Jenny, they took one last look at the disheveled vessel, possibly the last look ever taken, as since their departure, the ship has yet to be located again. Next up, we have the discovery of a hidden landmass frozen in time and ice and estimated to be bigger than Belgium. The landscape consists of hills and valleys believed to have been carved by ancient rivers over millions of years ago. Its existence was confirmed using a technique called radio echo sounding, which uses sound waves to determine distances, based off of which corresponding maps of underground structures and landscapes can be created. Without even laying eyes on an area, we are able to determine the heights of its peaks and the depths of its deepest points. The area of land stretching 32,000 square kilometers, 12,000 square miles, is a scientific marvel, as scientists believe its climate and geology to have been massively different from that of modern-day Antarctica. Which of course brings me to my next point. Also discovered within the ice and hidden beneath the frozen desert were the remains of an estimated 90 million year old subtropical rainforest. Scientists were so excited when, deep beneath the ice, they discovered an incredibly well-preserved network of root systems within a sediment core sample. A sediment core sample is basically like a ground extraction that shows all the layers of sediment that have settled over the last, I guess in this case, 90 million years. Not only did they find root systems, but the soil was so well preserved that they were also able to find traces of pollen, spores, and the remains of flowering plants. Based on these findings, it was concluded that the coast of West Antarctica at one point in time contained a thick, swampy rainforest which was home to a large variety of plant and animal species. Scientists also concluded weather patterns of heavy rainfall and heightened levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Next on the list we have BLOOD Falls. I apologize for having to spell it out for you. I don't think I'm allowed to say that word on here, but just by the look, I'm sure you can guess where the name comes from. So let's talk about the color. If you want to guess how it happens, I'll give you a moment. Maybe pause the video, head to the comments, lock in your answer. You done? Okay, the answer is iron, but not in the way you'd think. The red waters are rich in iron, but they don't actually turn red until they come into contact with the air. Well, maybe you did think that, but let me explain further. It's actually a mix of iron oxides and hydroxides along with high salt content in the water, chlorine, and magnesium that give the river flow its yellow, orange, and reddish coloring rather than the classic like murky brown we would usually see coming out of eroded sink faucets. Super creepy, but again, super cool. As we move past our halfway point, let's go beneath the ice all the way down to the Antarctic seafloor where the once lost ship Endurance Endurance was discovered in impeccable condition, preserved by the country's icy waters. For a long time, the Endurance shipwreck remained one of the greatest undiscovered mysteries, but that all changed in 2022 when, at a depth of 3,008 meters, the vessel was found, and that's 9,868.8 feet. The discovery was made via a combination of helicopters, underwater robots, and other state-of-the-art technology, which allowed it to be remotely filmed and explored. Although the wreck was crushed by ice and sunk over 100 years ago, the ship's name was still clearly legible along the stern of the vessel. And this is an incredible scientific feat as it highlights the extreme advances in technology, allowing us to explore some of the most inhospitable and extreme depths of our oceans. And next up we have a freaky looking, lanky underwater insect known as the giant sea spider. While they aren't actually spiders, they are in fact part of the insect family, and they are the largest sea spider found anywhere in the world, with some showing off a leg span of up to 10 inches. Ooh. These animals belong to a rare group that have no need for a respiratory system, breathing instead through their digestive system. The animal typically feeds off anemones, sea worms, jellyfish, sponges, and soft corals, making it technically carnivorous, and it feeds using a small tube which it inserts into its soft-bodied prey, allowing it to literally suck their guts out. Gross. As for the spider's guts, those are stored in the long, spindly legs of the creature, commonly found in shallow waters surrounding Antarctica. However, they have also been spotted at depths of 7,000 meters, 23,000 feet, making them highly adaptable to changes in both pressure and environment. Next up, we have another relative giant, the giant Antarctic scale worm, which measures in at 20 centimeters, 7.8 inches long, and 10 centimeters, 4 inches wide. Now, that might not seem gigantic to you, but remember, it's a worm, so yeah, it's pretty big. And it's also super uncomfortable to look at. Well, from head on, but the underbelly is actually quite cool, looking as though the creature is lined with shiny gold feathers along its edges, which are actually appendages that help it move along rock formations and the sea floor. Its back is covered in scales that act as fully functioning body armor to protect against predators. Back to the head, which is, to put it nicely, unpleasant, and it's not even a head, really, it's just a fully retractable throat. While there is still so much we don't know about this recently discovered creature, the two sharp fangs on both its top and bottom jaw suggest it has a carnivorous diet and hunting rather than scavenging behavior. The animal is known to enjoy depths of up to 1,640 feet, and they're also super good for the underwater ecosystem, assisting in the building of reefs by recycling ocean waste through a process called worm composting, where they turn food scraps into other organic material that acts like soil for the sea floor. Next up, in our top two today, we have Mount Erebus, the world's southernmost fully active volcano that last erupted in 2020 and contains a very elusive lava lake. The lava lake sits within the volcano, and it's basically a pool of molten lava that never hardens, but instead remains in a constant viscous fluid state. While you might have assumed this kind of thing to exist at the bottom of every active volcano around the world, you'd be incorrect, as they are actually incredibly rare because they require an incredibly specific set of conditions to be able to form. You see, a volcano's lava is generally held way underground in something called a magma chamber that connects to a volcano through an underground channel in the Earth's crust. And ever so often, under the right conditions, the magma chamber sends lava shooting up through the channel and the crater of the volcano into the atmosphere. A lava lake is different. It exists above ground within the crater of a volcano, and the bottom of the lake is connected to the magma chamber by a much shorter passageway called a conduit, which is basically like a long pipe. The lava from the chamber rises into the lake, and when the lava begins to cool, it moves back down towards the chamber to heat and rise once more. Thus, the lake remains unfrozen and in constant flow. Also a pretty cool sight to see. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed our video today. I had a lot of fun researching it. Let us know what you'd like to see next. I'm Hannah Thompson, and I'll see you in the next video.